My name is Russell Scott, and I give a retreat called the Enlightenment Intensive, which is a 3.5-day retreat. Sometimes it's 7 days, sometimes it's 14 days. And I've been involved in giving these for about 30 years. And I've probably given well over 50 or 60 of them throughout the time. And at one point, for about maybe 10, 11 years, I also ran a spiritual retreat center where I received a very good education on and experience of many different types of spiritual practices. And the benefit of that was that I got to see and compare the Enlightenment Intensive and its results to many of these other types of spiritual practice, and finding that the Enlightenment Intensive was quite unique in its effectiveness. The Enlightenment Intensive is a 3.5-day retreat that its sole purpose is for people to come to an awakening experience of their true nature or the true reality of life and others. And it employs a unique process that combines a traditional process of contemplation or meditation on one of these ultimate questions of life. Who am I? What is life? Combining that contemplation, that silent contemplation, with communication to a listening partner. So you might say it's a self-inquiry process, but it's an assisted self-inquiry, assisted by a listening partner who gives a question, gives these ultimate questions to the contemplator or the meditator. The Enlightenment Intensive was developed in California by a man named Charles Berner from the Institute of Ability. It was called the Institute of Ability at the time, around 1967-68. And Charles at the time was helping people through this process of people communicating to one another in a paired format. And he just came across this idea, what if I took a Zen koan question like, who am I? And got people to ask one another this question, and have one person ask the question, one person listen. What would happen if I did that over a period of time, rather than just people meditating on the question alone? And he found that it was quite remarkable. People were having these awakening experiences that would often take traditional methods months or years to have, but these people were having these awakening experiences in 3 or 4 days. And after that, he solidified the system over about 50 or 60 intensives. Awakening is is known in different traditions by different names, and it's known as awakening. In the East it's called enlightenment. In Zen it's called Kensho, Satori. In the West, Abraham Maslow has called it the unitive experience. The name isn't it, but what it really is this direct experience where the person that's inquiring into an ultimate question, such as who am I, comes into union with their true nature for a fraction of a second. And out of that union of self, they have this instantaneous knowledge, instantaneous consciousness of their true nature. And not only that, but they're in their true self and presenting that as they truly are. So the you might say the theoretical basis of the Enlightenment Intensive is a concept called coevolution, which if you look very closely to what's really going on in life, what's the dynamic that's really going on in life, you'll very quickly discover that there's this relational aspect of reality, that we are in a relational universe. We're relating to one another, we're communicating to one another, and as a result of that, our consciousness of ourself and others grows. Awareness grows as a function of relating to other people. So if you can structure that in a way where people are feeling safe to relate to one another from their authentic self, then consciousness can grow much faster. That's what's meant by coevolution. So the process of the Enlightenment Intensive works by structuring our relating with one another in a certain way. So we're actually imitating, or we're creating a situation where coevolution can actually be speeded up. And you speed it up by people making agreements, setting some agreements where people can feel safe to relate to one another. There's confidentiality. There's agreements of non-interruption, so people can get their communication across. And as a result, over time, they can be much more authentic and real, and they can be relating from their true self. And as a result of relating from their true self, the opportunity to self-reflect and look back at that authentic relating, there's more possibility that awakening or the recognition of one's true self can occur. So it's structured in what's called a dyad, and where you get one person sitting across from another, and one person's listening, one person's speaking. The listener gives an instruction, tell me who you are, to the listener. The listener receives that instruction, then goes inside in silence for a period of time and gets a sense of what that question is bringing up. So that question will bring up that own person's reality, and then they communicate that to the listening partner. The listening partner doesn't interrupt. They don't even smile. They don't nod their head. They're just there in their own presence, receiving that person. And when that communication is presented, is sent across to the listening partner, they just say thank you, and then it changes over. There is a role of authenticity in this process that's fundamental to people awakening to their true self. It's almost as if reality, or you might say universal truth, has a deal with personal reality. That if you want to experience universal truth, or the true nature of yourself, you cannot get there by not being yourself. You cannot get there by being a phony. You cannot get there by being unreal. You can only get there by presenting what's really inside of yourself, where authenticity is this condition where what's inside of yourself, your personal reality, is presented to another, and they get exactly what is your reality inside. And so there's this almost this meeting that happens between the universal truth and personal reality. And at some point, as a person is becoming more authentic, more and more real, they will suddenly notice who is the one who's becoming real. But that can only happen if the person is being authentic. And at some point, one will they'll flip into this state of suddenly recognizing who they actually are beyond their ego and their personality. It's a beautiful, marvelous experience. The kind of people that come to take an Enlightenment Intensive are really varied. You can't often say what age range they are. They're all different ages. You know, some of the people that come have gotten through a lot of their life. They may be in their 40s to 60s, and they're kind of looking back at their life, and they're wondering, you know, what was it all about? What really happened here? Was, you know, my dreams didn't happen? What I thought my life was supposed to be about didn't happen? The juice is kind of missing, and they're looking back, and they're asking, like, well, what's the purpose of it all? What is it that's going to fulfill me? So there's this sense of emptiness inside of themselves. You might even call it a sense of depression or desperation, and so they're kind of stuck in themselves, and there's a deep yearning for something much more satisfying in their life. So they start to ask these deeper questions. Other people, they've hit something in their life. They've had some occurrence in their life. Maybe they've lost their job, or their marriage is broken up, or they've experienced some trauma or deeper pain in their life, and that causes them to wonder, like, why am I suffering? What's the purpose of this suffering in my life? I don't get it. Like, why is life this way? And I just seem to be stuck in not really being able to get myself across to others. Like, there's something unfulfilling about my relationships. And I think there are other people, you know, maybe they may be younger, and they kind of come into life, and they just have this natural tendency to want to know what the truth is. It's just inherent in them. It's part of their character that they just have this spiritual disposition, and it's just natural for them to want to ask these ultimate questions. Who am I, and what's the purpose of life? There's a lot of benefits from the process. I could, you know, list an arm's length of them, but essentially I could sum it up. If a person has experienced who they truly are, what their true nature is, essentially they get to be who they are in their life. They get to spend the rest of their life being who they are, and not struggling with trying to present themselves through a personality or an ego state that we've been socialized to be. You know, we've been socialized to be Mr. Nice Guy, Mr. Rude Person. We've had these deep core beliefs that somehow I'm not enough. And so we present ourselves, our true self, through the filter, the buffer of this personality, and so it's like the personal power of ourself is daunted by this this filter, so that we're not fully engaging in life. We're not fully engaging with others. And what really gives us a sense of fulfillment in life is not buying cars. It's not, you know, having, you know, wonderful possessions. Deep down inside, it's about us engaging more fully in life from the sense of our true self. And that might mean, you know, engaging in life might mean, you know, laughing more. You know, like when you laugh with abandon. Or, you know, if you're going through a difficult time, you don't hold it back. You go through it. You let that difficult time flow through you so that it's transformed. And you can only do that if you're more fully engaged in your life. What people get from, let's say, an enlightenment experience of oneself is they get to feel a solidity in the foundation of their being, the deep foundation of their being. they get that who they really are cannot be destroyed. There's a permanence to truth. When you realize the truth of yourself, it is that way, and it is that way forever. I mean, that's a definition of truth. Truth is something that is always being that way. You know, when you say true love, it means you can trust that it's that way. So there's this strength. You can people abide in that strength of themselves, but they can also be vulnerable. It's only from true strength that you can be vulnerable, and within that vulnerability, then you can be sensitive to reality, and in that sensitivity, you get to be more in your life. There are a number of awakening or enlightenment experiences that occur on Enlightenment Intensives, and these are, you can read about these in spiritual literature. The remarkable thing is that you can have these yourself. You know, you don't have to read about them and just believe and take on the dogma. You can have these experiences yourself. So one of the experiences is that people can get about themselves is that they're who they are is just themselves. They're not defined by anything in their life. You know, they're not defined by their ego. They're not defined by their personality. They're not defined by this sense that I'm no good, that I don't deserve good things in my life. I'm not defined by what other people think of me. I am completely whole within myself. So there's a sense when people have this awakening experiences, I'm just myself, I'm just who I am, I'm just this guy here, I'm just me, that there's a sense of coming home to that, there's a sense of wholeness about it. The sense of fragmentation of oneself that happens in life when we're constantly engaged in all kinds of activities vanishes, and people get that they're whole, they're complete, that in many ways they don't have to be fixed. And this is marvelous in this society where constantly we're berated by this fact that in advertising, where we're told that we're not enough and we need something outside of ourselves to complete us. There's another direct experience where it goes beyond that, where people will have a sense not only they are themselves, but they are everything. That you might say that they are the universe, they're God, they're everything. People will have this experience that they are in everything. They'll look around themselves, you know, they'll see themselves in the forest, they'll see themselves in the tree, they'll look at others and they'll see themselves in others. So another direct experience that people have, a profound one, is that life is our relationship with one another. There's something about our relationships that is deeply fulfilling and fulfills the nature of life, and that as we relate to one another, we're becoming more conscious of ourselves, and that this is really what life is all about. It's not about accumulation of wealth. It's not about getting more and more. It's not about more status. It's inherently, interpersonal. That is where the juice of life and the satisfaction and the fulfillment of life is occurring. And if people get that, can you see how that would transform a person's life? It's like their families, their relationships, all their interactions with people become the spiritual path. This spiritual path is not separate from life. It's actually part of the very fabric of life. And that each time we communicate and have our communication received by another, we're actually forwarding our spiritual evolution.